bad, you know. And also a leader comes with you being able to something that my mom loves, what was telling my 3 brothers before they decided to start their own families is she told them, I remember mostly our second born, she told Gideon, and she said, when you decide to be a parent, it's for a whole lifetime. It's not a part-time job. It's a whole lifetime. If you decide that is what you want to do, put your all in it. And it comes down also to the concept, don't take it as a burden. But if you want to lead something, don't you want success out of it? Yeah. Don't you want something that procures good and greatness out of it? The same way. If you're as a leader, as a parent, it's always in the how you do it. How you lead your children will definitely speak of how they become in the future. Yeah.
I think also there's something our parents, maybe it was just my parent. Yeah. Every African parent has that one story that binds them together, which is, during our time, we used to wake up at 4 a.m. to go and fetch water.
Don't justify.
And then then go to walk to school. Apparently,
barefooted.
If you hear the story of how our parents went to school, by then you'll be like, wow. Yeah. Adventure, you guys. Because it seemed like walikuwa wanaamka and then they would meet lions along the way. They would fight lions before getting to school. And there are parents who will be like, if I went through all these challenges to go to school, then my child cannot have it easy. But actually, your duty as a parent and as a leader is to make sure that your child has it easy. Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't want my child to grow up in a home the same way I grew up in. So the other question about setting a good example. Again, you can't set a good example if you're not a good example yourself. Sometimes parents tell us to do things na tunaona wanafanya the exact opposite of what they're doing. Maybe sometimes it stems from a place of I can't leave whatever I'm doing. For example, a good example is drinking. Yeah, if you grow up in a house where your parent is drinking and then they tell you not to drink, they're like, it's logic because you're telling me that and yet you're drinking yourself, But maybe it's also from a point of nasieti anatetea wazazi, maybe natetea kidogo, but maybe it's also from a point of I don't want you to end up like me. But it's also important for parents to set a good example because I always say, if you grow up watching your father beat your mother, it's either you will, when you are an adult, you'll say, I'm not going to beat a woman because I saw how my mother suffered. Or, see, my father did it. Why can't I? So it's very important. And chances are, the child will always emulate the parent. Yeah. There's a child when alinisalimia this week, and then they were like, so, hi, how are you? They are then grade 2. How are you doing? I'm fine. And then she asked me, otherwise you're fine? I'm like, this is so adult. I started laughing, and then the mother told me, that's what the father says. Okay. So you see, if the father ukiishi kwa nyumba na unaita watoto wako ng'ombe, the child will go to school and call the teacher a cow, and you know what will happen. So I think it's very important for parents to set a good example because God set a good example by sending His Son to die on the cross for us. So we should also set a good example. Parents should also. Parents should also set a good example.
I think also before you speak, I think also when it comes to being models, parents, be who you are in the house as you are outside. Why does it, I don't know for others, but why does it when it comes to other kids you're so nice to them, but when it comes to your kids, ni kama ukuwaza. And I'm saying the truth. Let me just speak for most of the, adolescents out here. You are so nice to this kid until I can doubt if you really gave birth to me or you picked me up from the street. And it hurts. As kids, we have to be, witnesses to how you treat other kids of other people better than you treat us. You really are so concerned about their well-being than how I really am. And when we are out here, we, you know, how you portray yourself, it's really saintly. It's really, but when we come to the house, I see somebody else different. I experience something, you know, someone else like I've never seen before, and now I get to used to this pattern. Tukiwa huko nje mamangu kwa hivi, or tukiwa huko nje, this is just them. But when we get to the house, we know what really goes down. And also, on the aspect of being role models, for example, we're in the concept of scripture and God. Your kids ought to see church not only on Sunday, but also throughout the week. Your kids can't only be seeing worship or prayer or devotionals or all these things only in church, but when we come from Monday all the way to Saturday, we don't see these things. Bring church home. Bring that presence home. The way your kids will be molded into having intimacy with Christ is the consistency and discipline you also keep, not only from church, but also at home. Let them see you that my mom or my parents don't just pray, they only just pray at church. But ukikuja tu huku mtu kula vile anajisikia hata akumbuke saa God hivyo. Let us experience God the way you experience him in church, or even in greater capacity. Set that model. If it's being spiritual, even in the natural, set that model. That the person we see you in front of the altar, the person we see you in church, the person we see you with other people, can we experience better?
Yeah. And also, maybe just to add on what you say, there are a few children in church I've seen who raise up their hands during worship.
Come on.
And trust me, it's a good sight.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sight to behold.
Yeah.
And if you actually look at their parents, you'll find that when they're worshiping, they're also doing the same thing.
Yes.
So the child is like, if my parent is doing this, then it must be the right thing. And they raise up their hands.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is beautiful. I would want the same for my children.
Yeah.
I'll start with an example as started with. Actually, I think this week, I had a bad day. Then there's this kid who was from school. He said hi to me. How's been your day? I'm like, it's been nice. Okay, I wouldn't have said to him what has been happening. Yeah, how's been your day? Yeah. But today you look tired. I'm like, yeah, nimetoka kazi. And actually, my day ended nicely because of that child, the way he handled me. I think, okay, from the parents, sometimes what you do, okay, as a parent, to be a leader to your children, and also to reflect your leadership to others, what you do reflects from the kid. The kid will can do exactly what you're doing, or will never want to do what you're doing. Maybe you are nice, or you're bad. You can be either nice or bad. You can be nice to the kids outside there, but when it comes to your home, you're not as nice as the way other kids say about you.
True.
And to the teenagers, it's really painful.
Yeah.
And it comes to that point when a kid is telling you about your parent, and you're like, unajua babangu kweli? Aki babako ni mpoa. Kwanza ile siku. Then you know, it's painful to this kid mwenye anajua babake kwa nyumba ako hivi, lakini huku nje ako hivi. And also to this perspective also, where you are permanently these are when a kid is saying, when they are sharing something with a friend, then the friend is telling the kid to tell the parent this way, then the kid will react, do you know my parents? You don't know my parents. If they want to go out or do something, and the friend is asking them, let's go and do this, you don't know my parents. It's because of that interaction. You haven't had that interaction with your kids, and they fear asking you something. So to be a leader is to be approachable from even your kids.
Nice.
For your kids to approach you and tell you what they are going through, or ask you something, or for an advice. You will find a teenager going to ask for advice from another person, and you could have done it better as a parent,
Yeah.
and you find the person going to aenda kusumbua, okay, si kusumbua, aenda seek advice from maybe pastors or maybe teachers in school, and you as a parent you are there, and then next time ukisikia kuna kesi, then teacher atakuexplainia venye mtoto wako amekuwa, and you're like, unafeel vibaya. Yeah, you deserve it because you're not being a leader. You're not being a leader. And I'm sorry for that. It's a bitter truth that you deserve that. Ukipata mtoto wako ameambia teacher kuhusu some stuff na hakukuambia. How does it feel? I know it feels bad because you're a parent and your kid doesn't have that eye to tell you that I'm feeling this, I want this, or this has been going through, I've been going on with me. And on the other side, I know adolescent, it's a very risky and delicate stage for a teenager. And if a parent is that harsh, maybe mtoto ako moody, maybe kuna kitu imemsumbua shule, maybe hesabu hata imemsumbua, alafu pia wewe unakaa mna zako nyumbani, unaanza kugombana, maybe wewe ni baba mwenye anapenda kushout ama kupiga mama mtoto akiona, then do you think that kid will grow having seen that in a nice way, or that kid will grow akiwa na some mental illness na itamsumbua, like itasumbua stability yake hata akigrow kwa masomo inamsumbua, because at home hakuna peace na hawezi kuwa na peace na yeye na during that stage adolescent, I think that's where you have to be a parent. You have to listen to these kids or what they say. Iwe mbaya iwe mzuri, you as a parent should have a way to handle that. You as a parent should have a way to handle that. Like, mtoto akikwambia hata kitu mbaya aje, you as a parent you are supposed to handle that like a leader. Kuwa approachable. Kuwa mtoto anaweza fika hivi akwambia, enyewe mom, nilifanya hivi juu nilikuwa nataka kitu fulani ifanyike. Mom, nilifanya hivi, ama dad, nilifanya hivi kwa sababu nilikuwa nasikia kufanya hivi. Ama dad, nataka kufanya hivi leo. Unaweza nisaidia? Usikuwa ule mwenye mtoto anatumia mom kuomba kitu, aseme, "Mom, so please you can tell dad to buy me this thing or to allow me go for this trip." Be nice and also give these children a chance to interact with their peers. Kama kuna camp, let them go there. If kama wanashindwa kuhandle yeye, maybe their peers wanaweza understand each other, they can interact, and when they come home with a different picture. Na utafeel vibaya, and that's it.
It's so powerful. So you've picked, right?
Yes.
It's my turn.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey parents, you are being nailed. Haya. Parent-child relationship should be a reflection of God's love unto His people. Question A. Do you think this concept is often misinterpreted by parents always assuming they know what's best for their kids? Question B. What could be the outcome of this? I'll start with Ezra. Let me
just read it for myself.
Okay, you can read it.
Can I start as
Yes,
you
please,
said?
please.
Okay.
I think the way the question has said, like, a parent-child relationship should be a reflection of God's love unto His people. And yes, this concept is mostly misinterpreted when parents tend to assume they always know what's best for the child. This comes in a concept of applying pressure, fostering children to do what they're not passionate about. We've talked about this earlier. There's too much pressure, and I think unnecessary pressure. For me, I think you should be affirming kids who they already are, rather than trying to force them into something they're supposed to be, yet it's not their path. I think it's important for parents to observe your kids, observe what are their likes and dislikes. Observe even how they interact with other people outside from home. Sometimes you may think your child is not into some things. Maybe the context is the home. Maybe they're not as free enough to expose or rather explore what they really want to explore outside from the house. But when you take these kids outside from the house and place them into these environments where they are free to be themselves, they are free to be themselves. That is when you find out their interests. So the pressure is so much. And then there's something that really discourages us as kids, is when we don't venture into something that you wanted us to, you see us as if we've made a big mistake, and you start comparing us to other kids, and you start telling us, kama nani anaweza fanya hivi, kwani ni nini yako nayo enye we hauna. The moment you start comparing, simply because we are not doing what others are doing, it doesn't make us insignificant. Simply because other kids are doing what we are not doing, it doesn't make us less valuable. It's just that they are good at what they do. And plus, if God wanted us to be all the same, he could have made us to be all the same. But the world could be boring. Imagine everybody having the same abilities. Yeah. But the reason why God chose us to and created us to withstand and not to fit in, to be this, I usually tell myself, and I usually tell my sister, that you're unique and you're branded by kingdom. I always tell that to her all the time, so that I can foster her confidence into a way that she believes that she is enough. She doesn't have to be somebody else, And so it's important for you to believe in us. I know that's a huge step to take as a parent, but please believe in us when we tend to pursue some things in our lives that we see as important. Simply because it may not seem important to you as a parent, it doesn't mean it's not important. And sometimes parents, God can speak to your child without speaking through you. It's very possible God to speak to your children, not necessarily speaking through you. Please take that faith step to believe in your children and what they do. Take a sit back and see, is this something really making them happy? How do they feel after pursuing these activities? How do they feel, engaging with certain kind of people? So the pressure is really there. Try and believe in your kids that simply because they're not doing that which is perceived as the society as the best, it doesn't mean that they won't come out at the other end as victorious. It doesn't mean that they won't come out at the other end as, great people. So the pressure is that if you could eliminate the pressure, I believe we trust you. We trust you to be the leaders of our home. We trust you to parent us into ways that when we grow up, we won't depart from them. But also, don't push us into that, it's this way, I know what's best for you, and if it's not me. Some parents even diminish what teachers could tell them in school. But you've been telling your child to really do this, but I really see, and they're like, no, I'm the one who sits with my child all day. She comes to my home and not your home. So also listening to, the people who your children are interacting with and listening to their perspective will really help you to know, am I really, encouraging, that which is in my child, or am I trying as much as possible to destroy it because I believe this is what is best for my child? And also the question begins, the statement says, a parent-child relationship should be a reflection of God's love. What is God's love? He gave his only begotten son. He gave. The possession of he gave. Love is sacrificial. And sacrifice, it takes some loss.
Could also give a disclaimer.
Yeah, sure.
To, sacrifice your children.
I don't mean it in that way.
Like figuratively, yeah?
Yeah, I don't mean it in that way, but love is really sacrificial. If you want to emulate God's love unto his people, also parents emulate such kind of love where it takes sacrifice to know, maybe this is what I think is best for my child, but what if this is what God wants? What if this is what God wants, and I should trust that is what is best for my child? Yeah.
Thank you. I think you've said most of the things, but mine is just to add hapo kwa being unique. There's a movie, I think it's called The Incredibles. It's an animation. And at one point, no, it's Incredibles. It's this guy with a big head. Megamind, yes. At one time, the villain in that story said, no, actually it was in The Incredibles, sorry. So he said, the villain said in the movie that I'm going to make everyone a superhero. Everyone in the world, I'm going to give everyone in the world a superpower. And you know, it sounds good on paper when you say everyone is going to have a superpower. But really, if you think about it, when everyone is a superhero, no one will be a superhero. No one will be a superhero. So the same applies to children. If every child became a lawyer, we wouldn't have doctors. If every child became a doctor, we wouldn't have pastors. You know. So every child is unique in their own way. So if my father really wanted me to do law, my father really wanted me to do either law or medicine. And look at me now. I'm not a doctor, neither am I a lawyer. But I'm not complaining, you know. So it's also to understand that your children have their own lives, as I said earlier on. So sometimes you think what you want is best for your children, but really it's not. You just want what's best for yourself. Because sometimes we want our children to become, you know, when you go for family reunions and people are introducing themselves, and your father gets up and like, oh, this is so and so, this is Dr. So and so, this is Wakili.
Or you want to prove to others that your kids are better than.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you get to your other child who did animal husbandry, and your dad is like, this one deals with animals. Or he tries to tailor it in a way that
looks
suits his intentions, you know. So it's also to understand that your child will want to do something different. You know? So that's very important.
Okay, to me, I'll start with the personality of God. The personality of God. God is love. So as to parents, if God is love to us, then to your children also, you should reflect that love to them. Like, I don't know how to put this, but if your child wants to do something, then if you don't like that thing, it doesn't depend on you saying yes or no to that thing. If your kid wants to pursue something, it doesn't depend on you saying no or yes. They love it, and for you need to adjust yourself to what that kid likes. If she or he wants to be a pilot, if he or she wants to be a clown, sorry parents, but there are clowns there. If he or she wants to be a pilot, or he or she wants to be a driver, then mwacha afanye chenye anataka kufanya, lakini make sure umemkubalia with love. That's atafanya na atakuwa passionate about that thing kenye anapenda, kenye anataka. And that's love. That's love. Allowing them to do that in their space and making them feel not left out. And that's nice. Being a parent, it's God-given, and God gave us that authority, or gave you that authority. I'm not a parent. Apparently, God no parent. So for you, it's an authority from God for you to be a parent, and it's not you that give everything, but it's God that give everything. Yeah.
But I also think just to, because I feel like to shoot parents sana, I also feel like sometimes growing up we don't really know what we want as children, because it's easy to say I want, you know,
I want to be a superstar.
You want to be, for example, you want to be a doctor when you're in primary. Then you get to high school, you realize, science is not my thing. So you say, I'm good with being a nurse. You know, it's still medicine in a way. And then after from 2, you realize, no, it's not working out. And eventually realize the only way I'm going to go to the hospital is when I'm sick.
Being a
'cause
patient.
Pole pole, you realize that it's not really my thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like when we are growing up, there's something we really... Tukiwa wadogo, kila mtu alikuwa anataka kuwa pilot. Everyone wanted to be a pilot. Tungekuwa na so many accidents huko juu. Ndege zingekuwa mingi, you know. Sometimes we don't really know what we want. I feel like that's my personal opinion. Sometimes we want this, but when we sit down and actually look at our abilities, they don't match what we want to achieve. And you can put in all the effort you want. You can read all you want, and you can read to pass the exams and to be a lawyer, but you will not make a good lawyer. But there's someone who is just naturally a lawyer. They are eloquent. They are everything. You know, and so sometimes I feel like we are too hard on our parents as well. You know, so I think it also requires a certain degree of you know,
Wisdom.
Yeah, a certain degree of wisdom to actually understand what you really want for yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice
So the
one.
parent and the child should be in sync.
Yeah. Good. It also brings us down to trusting your parents to be leaders,
Yes.
to lead you.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Then this one is yours, and we'll be done. So, do you think kids crave for oh yes. I'm sorry, but do you think kids crave for communication from and to their parents? Yes. If so, how vital do you think communication is between parents and their kids? Oh yes. Let me
Teacher,
start.
I have an ask.
Yes.
Would it be nice when if kids express themselves to their parents, even if okay, how can I frame this question? Okay, it's just that question. If the parents could be flexible and make their kids really comfortable asking anything, ataka ni okay, it's not the right place to say this. Even sometimes kids can ask awkward things, but haizi uliza mzazi, naenda kwa beshtaki aulize beshtaki.
I'd rather have it. That is why it's so important to have that kind of relationship with your child, that it makes them feel safe. They can come to you to ask anything, even if it's awkward. Isn't that our relationship with God?
Yeah.
We'll feel free to go to Him and say to Him how we feel, however it can be weird, however it can be crazy, but we'll still prefer each other be Him than anybody else. Down to security. Do you think kids yes, we do crave for communication. If so, how vital do you think the communication is? If there's no communication, can there ever be any relationship?
Nope.
Thank you. We need that communication. Plus, if we reflect our relationship with God, it's a to and fro. It's a dialogue. It's a two-way thing.
Yeah.
So the way we speak to God and we also await for Him to speak to us, that should be a reflection of how a parent-child relationship should be. As you parents speak to us, we honor that voice. We obey those instructions. We do honor that. We do appreciate that. You could have been doing something else. You could have, given us a way, but the fact that you still chose to be that guide for us and take it as a responsibility that I'm going to raise these kids up with the ability that God has given me. We also need that communication. We don't just need to see you perform. We also need to see you nurture.
I think also sometimes, I know parents complain that we give them the silent treatment, but sometimes parents actually give us silent treatment.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you have done something wrong. And I think I saw this growing up. You are told, if you do something, if something is happening in your life, just come and tell me, And you tell your parent, and then they hold it against you.
Yeah.
It will come up in another conversation somewhere. There are receipts. Receipts are always kept.
Evidence.
And you will hear ati kidogo kidogo tu umefanya kitu hata si ati umefanya kitu mbaya by the way. Like it's just a minor issue. And you hear and this is the same guy who was beating girls in school. You know, I'm sorry, I didn't have another example. But you know, like I think when it comes to communication, we want, and I'm speaking this from a child's perspective, we want, when we tell you something, you know, like we don't want to hear it in another conversation. We don't want it to come up when, for example, I stole sugar today, and then
don't remind
you beat
us.
me or you punish me or we talk about it and we agree that I'll never steal sugar or anything else again. And then I do something totally different and related to sugar and related to diabetes. And then you start telling me, and see, what did you do last time? What did, you know, every time I will be like, I don't want to come and tell you anything else because it will come up in another discussion. So I think when it comes to communication, it's just, when you talk about something, please don't bring it up and don't use it against me. And don't use it to compare me to my siblings, because that actually hurts.
That will affect,
Yes.
that will even lead us to questioning our self-worth, if
Yes.
we're enough. If God could keep on bringing us up our mistake every single time, how would you make it
Oh
feel?
yes. That makes more
You know?
sense. Yeah.
So if there is if communication is not that efficient between a parent and the child, trust me, it will reach a point where your child is questioning their existence, questioning if they belong, and even things to do with their self-esteem. And you find children always being in a corner of themselves, being depressed. Depression actually won't start when they're older. Some small glimpses starts off there, and you find them preferring to have their own company, you know, and being by themselves and being alone, because wamezoea tu, what comes out from your mouth is ridicule, criticism, and remind it's better than having them withheld inside. It really, really helps to just get you loosed. Yeah.
Have you ever had that feeling when you maybe ulikuwa unalia alafu ukimalizia that feeling ya
Did you really have?
That's how it feels when
Yeah.
you
Okay. So on to our last question
Yeah.
of the day. Encouragement goes a long way for kids, especially from their parents and those they love. Other than this, what else do kids desire from their parents that assists with their self-worth? And this is from Colossians chapter 3 verse 21.
Which you can read.
Yes. So it says, fathers, do not provoke or irritate your children, so they will not lose heart and become discouraged or unmotivated. It's very straight to the point, to be honest. So do you think, so encouragement, when it comes to encouragement, I don't know who will start.
You start.
I
Yeah, it's okay. Actually, we're coming to a close.
Okay. So, encouragement for kids. Let me just read the question again. Encouragement goes a long way for kids, especially from their parents and those that they love. Other than this, what else do kids desire from their parents that assists with their self-worth? Growing up, I was never the best student in math, to be honest. Actually, I was never the best student in math.
that's my guy.
But not that I used to fail, don't get me wrong. I used to get about 50s. So, in primary, like nilikuwa napata 60s, nikipita sana 66.
Yes,
Nilikuwa na celebrate.
chepe.
But if compared to my siblings, my other siblings, nilikuwa naanguka. And I'm not saying this from a place of heart. I've already healed. So I worked really hard and I got an 80. From 60s, I got an 80. And I remember going home happy. We had one rule. Ukifunga shule, you go home, everyone unaweka success card. Report card kwa meza, and my father goes through each and every one of them. And so and he asked me, what happened to the other 20? That's what I got from working hard. What happened to the other 20? And after that, I was like, why do I even try with this one? You know, okay, I didn't put it like that, ningekufa, but I was just like, I stopped. So even if you look at my transcripts, anything to do with math is out of, I get 84, you know. And words of affirmation, cow. If you call me a dog, don't be surprised when I bark, you know. And most of the times it's not